Tonight's film, a dramatization of the investigation of the death of Nancy Lyon, is based on court records, published accounts, and personal interviews.
Nancy?
What is it, Tom? It's just a man. You're burning up. Here you go. Thanks. You want me to call the doctor? Yeah. Okay. It's okay. Hang on. Okay, just wait. All right. Don't go right back. Okay.
It's all right, girls. I've got to take Mommy to the doctor. Okay, Annie's gonna come and be with you for just a little bit.
Will you be back?
Of course, sweetie pie. Everything's gonna be just fine.
Daddy, I'm scared. Can I have Susie?
Yeah, sure you can. Here you go. Now, I need you to be a big, brave girl, all right? Nanny's on her way. Bye-bye. We're gonna get you to the hospital. See if you can get this on. Your arm. Okay, okay. We'll be there in a minute.
I got here as fast as I could.
You take her downstairs, please. I'll get the car started.
What's wrong with her?
I don't know. Just call the hospital and tell them we're on our way.
Struggles.
When did the cramping and vomiting begin?
This evening.
She eat anything she normally doesn't eat?
No? I don't know. I don't think so.
All right, start an IV with D5 and normal saline, then an arterial blood gas. Wait here, we'll be right back. Send the chemistry profile. Go, go!
Nurse, we're here to see Nancy Lyon.
Daddy.
Richard, what the hell is going on? Where's the doctor?
You're running some tests.
What kind of test?
They took Nancy to the ICU.
ICU?
How bad is she?
Pretty bad. I don't know.
Mr. Lyon, may I speak with you?
Of course. Doctor.
Doctor, I'm Bill Dillard, Nancy's father. What's wrong with her?
She's having severe nausea and vomiting. We haven't isolated the problem yet. Right now, we're just trying to keep her stable.
You mean you don't know what's wrong with her?
We suspect food poisoning, maybe even toxic shock syndrome. But her symptoms are atypical, and we're doing everything we can.
There's got to be something more.
We may be able to get an answer when we get her blood tests back.
Is there anything I can do?
Yes. You can call her friends or associates at work. Find out if she's eaten anything that's out of the ordinary. And I need you to fill out those forms up at the front, I'm sorry. Look, I know this is a tough time.
Daddy.
What?
I'll be up in ICU if you need me.
No, wait. I think you should hear this too, Doctor.
Can you take this mask off for a minute? Never very comfortable. What's this I hear about you getting some bad wine?
Who said that?
Your family?
Somebody left it on the porch. A gift.
They also said you've been taking some kind of pills.
Pills. Oh, those. No. They were vitamins. They made me sick. I stopped taking them a while ago.
These vitamins, where'd they come from?
Come from? I don't know.
Do you still have the vitamins in the wine? Okay. All right. Nurse? Nurse?
Yes,
Breathe.
doctor.
Breathe. Breathe. Nancy, stay with me. Breathe.
You'd never find anything in here. This is all stuff from her therapy. I don't know where else to look.
She did say something about a trunk. Now, is there a trunk around here?
Wait, I know. I completely forgot. We had a garage sale. Nancy asked me to keep this for her.
What's going on?
The doctor wants everything that Nancy might have eaten. How is she?
Not the same.
You should get some rest.
I just need a shower, change my clothes. I'll take the girls to school in the morning. You can help him.
Hello?
Bridget? Hi. I'm sorry to call so late.
Honey, what's wrong?
I've been at the hospital all night.
What?
Nancy's in intensive care.
What is it? That blood problem?
Well, they don't know. They're running every test they got. The whole family's down there. You ought to see them. It's still the Blame Richard Club.
Well, they're just still bitter about the separation.
I don't know.
Is there anything I can do?
No. I just needed someone to talk to.
You know I'm always here for you.
Thanks. Bridget.
Daddy?
I gotta go. I'll call you later. Sweetheart, what are you doing out of bed, sleepy girl? Come on. What's the matter? Did your bunny rabbit have a bad dream?
Nurse, give me a stethoscope.
Here you go, doctor. Remember the day you were born. You were the most beautiful baby. You were such a beautiful baby. You remember when Allison was born? Do you? You remember when your baby daughter was born?
Hey, Bill.
Well, darling. Get in here. Sit down. To what do I owe the honor?
Nancy Lyon.
Wait a minute, I just got this here report. It's a little early for the DA's office, so now what's up?
I hear we may be looking at a murder case.
Well, that could be. This is what we've got for now.
What'd the autopsy show?
Arsenic.
Nasty business.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Well, her brother pulled some stuff from the house and some vitamin pills laced with barium carbonate. I mean, that's a poison, but it's not the poison that killed her.
Did I hear they had tested some wine?
No, that was clean. It's a Cabernet. Good one, I'm told.
So where's the arsenic?
I don't know. Yet. But I'm going over to the Dillards. You can't tag along?
I would.
Nah. Now you're going to keep up, aren't you?
I promise.
Good.
I'm right behind you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hello. Detective Ortega. How do you do? I'm Nancy's mother. Thank you so very much for coming.
This is Assistant District Attorney Jerry Sims.
How do you do? My husband's waiting for us. Would you just come this way, please? Bill, this is Ms. Sims from the District Attorney's office.
Sims?
And, of course, Detective Ortega.
Detective. Mr. Dillard. Please sit down. This is my son, Bill Jr., and his wife, Mary Helen.
I'm so sorry for your loss. I promise you we'll do everything we can to get to the bottom of this.
Now, I've seen the toxicology report from the autopsy, and it was definitely arsenic.
I just don't understand who would want to poison her, Nancy. I really don't. Who would do such a thing?
Oh, Mama. I'll tell you who. Richard, her husband. That's who.
Yes, I understand that you have reason to suspect Mr. Lyon.
He gave her poison pills. Poison wine. She dies of poison?
Well, the wine checked out clean. The pills contained a poison, barium carbonate, that is not that effective on humans. It's for rats.
I can understand your anger, but if Mr. Lyon did poison his wife, we still have to make a case.
And why would Mr. Lyon want to poison Mrs. Lyon?
For the money? Why else?
Well, perhaps. Richard left our Nancy for another woman not long ago. Didn't work out, I suppose. She was younger than he.
Who was this other woman?
Bridget Tyler.
What happened, happened. Richard and Nancy had reconciled. They were trying to put their marriage back together. At least we hoped so.
Soon after that, her health goes south. Now she's dead. He's there in the house with the girls. Now, who's next?
Come on, honey, calm down. Let the detective do his job.
Now, do you have any ideas about the arsenic? Where it might have come from? Did Nancy use arsenic for anything?
No, not that I know of.
I can't imagine what for.
But you know, shortly after she and Richard got separated, when things got really bad, you remember Nancy told us that she found a check? I mean, a carbon of a check, you know, that Richard had written to some company. She suspected that he was buying all these drugs. She was afraid he was trying to poison her back then.
Well, did she tell you the name of the company?
Oh, I don't remember, but I think it was in Houston. But you know, another time, Richard had given her a soda that tasted strange to her, and she saw some kind of powder floating on it, so she dumped it.
When was this? Nobody did anything?
Nancy was embarrassed. She thought people would only think she was crazy. That it would sound like the typical divorce story. It did seem a bit far-fetched.
Well, can you think of anyone else who might have wanted to harm Nancy?
Everyone loved Nancy.
Well, if there's anything else that you can think of, please, give us a call.
You mean you're not going to arrest Richard?
Oh, not till I have more evidence. Mr. Dillard?
Let me show you out.
I don't get it. She suspects she's been poisoned, but she doesn't do anything about it until it's too late.
Well, nobody likes to believe those things.
Can Mommy see what I'm wearing?
I think your mommy can see everything.
Anna says that Mommy was in the statue in the garden.
I saw the pretty flowers, Anna. It's gonna be okay, sweetie. It's all gonna be all right.
Tell me not, mournful numbers. Life is but an empty dream. For the soul is dead that slumbers. The things are not what they seem. Life is real. Life is earnest. And the grave is not its goal. Dust thou art, to dust returnest, was not spoken of the soul. Not enjoyment and not sorrow is our destined end or way, but to act that each tomorrow find us farther than today.
Mrs. Chandler, do you know anything about these vitamin pills that Mrs. Lyon was supposed to be taking?
Not really.
Did Mrs. Lyon mention her suspicions that Richard was trying to drug her?
Excuse me?
Anything about drugs?
Well, I know that Nancy and Richard were having problems, but I can't imagine Richard giving drugs to anyone.
You knew that marriage better than anybody. Can you tell us about it? What was Nancy like?
Well, she was one of those professional mothers that you read about, always working hard. I mean, she was very good at her job. I just look at all of her buildings. I mean, I was glad that she was busy. I love those little girls.
And Richard? I mean, what about him?
Well, Richard was, he used to love to go into the garden with the girls and plant flowers or some other project. And even when Nancy was there, lots of times she had work to do.
Here we go. Okay, sweetheart, thank you. I'm gonna work in the fertilizer and you're going over there and get the hose, all right?
Fertilize. That's all he ever thinks of.
I heard that.
Good. Time to clean up. Come on, party's in a few hours. Elsie. Elsie.
What are you doing? You're right in the face. Oh, yeah.
I could see the pressure that Richard was under. Nancy was just more successful, and I think that made it hard for him. And then there were the family affairs. Richard, he seemed so uncomfortable, and I think he really tried. But he was an outsider. He just didn't fit in.
They went that way.
Make sure they don't break anything.
They should be in the nursery. I never allowed you all to run rampant through a party.
Mother.
They're fine.
My daughter, Nancy. May her success continue.
To my lovely, lovely sister, Nancy. The finest architect the Armadillo Estate has ever produced. Too bad she had to run off and marry a damn Yankee.
Why'd you have to go off and marry a Yankee?
Oh, he was just kidding. Don't make such a big deal out of every little thing. He had too much to drink.
He had more than too much to drink, and you know it. Or is that another Dillard family taboo we're not supposed to talk about? Everybody's perfect. Everybody's from Texas.
Richard, stop it.
I don't know how you deal with it, but I'll tell you something right now. I can't deal with it.
I guess that was part of the problem. I don't think Richard felt as successful as the other people around him. He wasn't a Dillard. He never would be.
Is there anything else?
Well, they did take a vacation or a trip of some kind, everybody. They went to Arizona, and when they came back, it's almost like they were different people.
What do you mean?
Well, Richard seemed to be away all the time, even around Christmas. Nancy started seeing a psychiatrist. I remember it just seemed to be a very hard time for everybody. Anna and Allison, too.
Isn't Daddy coming?
I'm not sure, sweetheart.
I want him to come home.
Well, you remember when Mama used to work all the time? Well, now Daddy has to work. We're taking turns.
Why'd you stop working?
Well, because I wanted to spend more time with my two little girls. That's why. And how about Jingle
Bells, Batman smells, Robin laid an egg. Batman popped a tire, and Joker got away.
Oh, that's not nice.
Daddy taught us that one.
Oh, he did.
Daddy!
Merry Christmas.
Are those presents for now?
Don't you want to wait till Christmas morning?
No way!
Okay, but just one apiece now.
Home for Christmas.
Well, I can't miss that.
Well, yeah, but you just come and drop off your gifts and then take off.
What am I supposed to do? Pretend like nothing's wrong? The way your whole family has been pretending for the last 30 years?
Why do you keep harping on it? I'm dealing with it.
Dealing with it how? By quitting your job? By seeing a shrink all the time? Look at you, you're unraveling.
Of course I'm unraveling. I mean, you walk out, you take up with another woman. Don't tell me that's helpful.
I didn't want it to turn out like this.
I even get bills for her jewelry.
You think I wanted it to turn out like this?
Just all makes me sick. I mean, if you're so all-knowing, why don't you just tell me what to do?
I can't tell you what to do. I don't know what you should do. I really don't. And you want to know the truth? I don't even know if I care anymore.
Well, what about the girls?
I love the girls. Don't throw that in my face.
Oh, that's real good. Just run back to your little girlfriend,
That's
huh?
exactly what I'm going to do.
Be all right. I'm not gonna let him do this.
I'm not gonna let him go.
So what do you suppose she meant by that?
Well, she couldn't let him go. She was willing to do almost anything to change herself, the way she dressed. He was almost like an addiction to her.
This was after they came back from Arizona.
Yes.
Was Richard living with his girlfriend at the time?
Well, he had his own apartment, but you know how those things go. They were practically glued together. That's why Nancy drove such a hard bargain at the divorce.
Oh? How hard a bargain was that?
Well, Richard wanted to share everything equally. Nancy said, over my dead body. Well, what I mean is that she wasn't going to just let him two-step out of her life just like that. She demanded full custody, child support. She even changed her life insurance policy.
Life insurance?
Yes, she gave the money to the girls.
How do you know this?
I witnessed it.
Did Richard know about this?
Not sure.
So she pulls out all the stops. What did he do?
Well, he tried to patch things up.
A few months later, she's dead. Did she seem like the kind of woman who would sit quietly by and allow herself to be poisoned?
What do you mean?
Mrs. Lyon died from poisoning. Didn't you know that?
Yes. But,
Miss Chandler, don't say anything to Richard about our conversation here, especially the part about what Nancy died from.
Sure, but doesn't he know that?
As far as I know, he doesn't. I mean, he never called the hospital to find out what happened.
Unless he already knew.
Phone records, bank records, the records from the supply house in Houston. We've even served all of the delivery services.
Unfortunately, we still can't link Richard to the arsenic.
Oh, why can't you just bust the guy? I mean, you got poison pills, a mistress, you got motives all over the place.
We need solid evidence.
Or we might lose the case in court.
Unless we can prove conclusively that Richard had arsenic in his possession.
Then that dog don't hunt.
Well, you're gonna have to do something. I think he's on to us.
This came this morning. It's some kind of a, I don't know what.
Nobody's friend. My name is Gossip. I have no respect for justice. I maim without killing. I break hearts and ruin lives. I am cunning and malicious, but my victims are helpless. They cannot protect themselves. Because I have no name, no face, I am Gossip.
Now, may I remind you, while you're searching for solid evidence, that man is watching Nancy's children.
Oh, can I help you with this? I'm okay. Thanks. Richard?
Yeah. Oh, hi, Ellen. You haven't met Bridget yet, have you?
I've heard so much about you. It's nice to finally meet you.
Thanks.
That's probably for me.
Excuse me.
Nanny! What? Look, we're having a party.
Look what you girls have been up to. It looks so beautiful. Anna, did you help?
We both did. And look, this one's Daddy's, this one's mine, this one's Anna's, and this one's yours.
Mmm.
And this one's Mommy. If we make it really fun, Mommy will come.
Ellie, I'm sure that your mommy would really like to come, but when people die, they just, they just can't. Richard?
Hi, Ellen. I'm just wading through some of Nancy's stuff here. You have no idea the amount of paperwork you have to go through when somebody dies.
No, I'm sure. Is there anything I could help you with before I go?
No, I'm just trying to make sense out of this insurance policy.
Oh, is that the most recent one?
Recent? What do you mean?
Well, Nancy changed the policy not long ago. She left it to the girls. I thought you knew.
I don't know what you're talking about. No. No, she would never do something like that without telling me. There must be some mistake.
Well, maybe I'm just confused. Well, good night.
Good night. I've checked on the girls. They're fine.
Good night.
Good night.
So what you're saying is the only other prints that you found are those of Mr. and Mrs. Dillard?
Nobody else's, not even any partials.
None. We tried everything. No other latent prints at all. If someone else wrote this, they were wearing a glove.
What about the stamp?
It's a 25-center.
Ha ha.
You ran a saliva test?
Came up negative. Whoever applied the stamp used good old Dallas tap water.
That's what I said, didn't I? How are you holding up, Mr. Lyon?
Okay, I guess.
You're probably wondering why you're here, aren't you?
Something like that.
Do you know what your wife died of?
No.
She died from poison.
Poison? Oh, my God.
Do you keep any poisons around the house?
No, just weed killer and ant killer, stuff like that.
Did you ever purchase any stronger chemicals?
No.
Did you ever order any chemicals from a company near Houston called Chem Ventures?
Yes, that's the place where I got the ant killer.
Yeah, what do you use to kill ants?
I don't know the exact scientific name.
Barium carbonate?
Yes, I think that's it.
Anything else? I mean, you'd really be helping us along here if you could remember.
Well, the ants were pretty bad. I didn't know what was going to work, so I ordered a few things to experiment with to try to get rid of them.
Well, like what?
Sodium nitroferrocyanide.
Are you sure there wasn't anything else that you ordered from Chem Ventures? I mean, anything stronger?
Well, at one point, I might have bought some arsenic acid.
Arsenic?
Mm-hmm.
You mean arsenic?
Yeah, that's right.
Did that get rid of the ants?
I never used it. I got rid of it before the kids could get into it.
What about your wife?
What about her?
Well, she died of arsenic poisoning. And we believe it was not accidental.
Are you saying she was murdered?
Did you kill your wife, Mr. Lyon?
What?
Did you poison Nancy Dillard Lyon?
Certainly not.
Did Bridget Tyler poison Nancy Dillard Lyon?
What are you talking about?
How do you feel about taking a lie detector test, Mr. Lyon?
Fine, and I'm going to call my lawyer.
You do that.
Mr. Guthrie, we understand that Mr. Lyon has lost custody of his 2 children to the victim's brother, Bill Dillard Jr. Has Mr. Lyon been formally charged with murder?
No. The action of the police in publicly defaming Richard Lyon without any sort of criminal charges is just outrageous. He's lost his wife, his business is hurting, and now they've taken his children away from him. And all of this before the police have even finished their investigation.
So you feel the police have acted prematurely in this situation?
Yes, I do. I feel it's unacceptable action on their part. And I intend
not going to get away with
Lyon
this.
is exonerated of all these false innuendos.
Does Mr. Lyon feel confident that...
Andy pointed out that Dillards have only gained temporary custody, and he intends to get his daughters back. Mr. Lyon also stated that he was the one who feared for his daughter's safety while in the Dillards' custody. He would not elaborate on those allegations to this reporter, but court will reconvene on this matter March 15th.
Thank you, Gordon. And now, Roger.
Actually, it was Mr. Dillard who asked me to hire Richard. Well, right after Richard dumped Nancy, too. Well, what the heck? That's the kind of guy Bill Dillard is. Richard's a nice guy, too. I'll do whatever I can to help, Detective. This whole business is awful.
You recognize this?
What is it?
It's an order for arsenic under your company's name.
Oh, that's weird. We don't use poisons in my nursery. We're organic.
Organic?
That's right.
So you have no idea why that was ordered?
Nope. Wait. Come to think of it, Richard had a hell of a problem with fire ants. At one point, he was complaining about it a lot. They were biting his little girls. Maybe he ordered it to kill the ants.
Another letter. This one's typed. It says Bill Jr. did it.
About Nancy Dillon Lyon? Your suspect ought to be the man who did it, Bill Dillard. He's an evil person. He paid me to get rid of his sister, but he only paid me partly. Watch him close, or I will get him soon. DNA?
Seal with water, too.
We ought to get better taste than stamps, is what?
No, I don't get it. It's too obvious to be Richard.
Maybe.
Your Honor, no one loves those little girls more than my wife and I do.
No one's doubting that, Mr. Dillard. But your allegations against the children's natural father are unproven.
But the police have an ongoing investigation. They suspect that he killed the children's mother.
I'm well aware of that. However, at this time, the court finds no sound basis for the restraining order against Mr. Lyon, who is still afforded the presumption of innocence. The court therefore dissolves the order and returns custody of the children to Mr. Lyon.
Yes.
The court is now in recess.
For God's sake, he killed my sister and they're giving him her children. Oh!
Hey, look, girls, Bridget's here for a visit.
Is Nanny gonna take care of us?
We'll be okay without Nanny, sweetheart.
Hey. Ooh, your hands are cold as ice.
Daddy, are we moving?
No, honey, we're just taking care of some of Mommy's things.
Come on, girls.
Well, I think I've gotten all the boxes of Nancy's papers that you wanted me to look at. I'll get into them at the office tomorrow. Hey, there's someone out here I want you to meet. We're just getting some photos. Stoner. Stoner, this is Richard. Stoner's our private investigator and secret weapon. Richard, Stoner and I were talking. what do you think about Bill Jr. and all this?
What do you mean?
Well, as a possible suspect.
Well, you think so?
Well, I was wondering, does his family inheritance increase because of Nancy's death? I mean, I want to know if he's hurting for money or any problems.
Bill Jr.'s always had problems, but, you know, I hate to say this, but I think maybe we ought to start looking at Nancy.
You mean suicide?
It's freezing out here. Come on inside. I've been thinking about it. It's like there were two of her. Two Nancys, I mean. There's the one that she became. I don't know, the one in the newspapers. But before that, when we first met at Harvard, she was a ball of fire. There was no one like her. We were both in the master's program at the School of Design, and we were assigned to the same project. I couldn't believe my luck. She called my ideas plebeian. I was deeply wounded. But nothing mattered, except I was actually getting to know her.
Oh, get an eraser. A big one.
What are you talking about?
Well, look at this. It's too... It's functional. It's boring. It needs a little lead in its pencil.
It is supposed to be low-income housing.
Well, so? Maybe some classic columns here. Maybe a cantilever canopy here. Maybe some kind of sunroom up here on the roof.
You know what it's called? It's called Tar Beach.
Oh? Well, whatever.
Obviously, you've never lived in an apartment before.
Well, if you want to get a new partner, I won't be crying.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that.
I mean, it's not like we're really going to build this building. We might as well have some fun with it. Right. Okay.
What kind of fun did you have in there?
Oh, here, okay, the sunroom.
Anyway, we worked on that project for about 6 weeks, killing ourselves. Well,
Yeah, I know, but...
Nancy was killing herself. She had a compulsive drive to be the best. When push came to shove, I was crazy about her. But after we were married in Dallas, and later on, after Allison was born, we sort of got drawn back into the Dillard family orbit, and everything started to change. Nancy started to change.
Many places.
Billy, will you stop that atrocious racket? Nancy, it's way past time to put the child down.
It was as though, watching our kids grow up, she was remembering her own unhappy childhood. And then, of course, there was Bill Jr.
Alcohol?
Oh, alcohol, drugs, you name it. Bill had been a pretty troubled guy all his life. The thing about it was that after years of trying to put it behind him, the whole family got dragged back through it again when we all went down to that thing in Arizona for a week.
The treatment center.
Bill had checked himself then. He'd been there 3 or 4 months. This was the final stage of it. Family week, they called it. It's pretty typical, I guess. It's group sessions, private sessions. The whole point of it was that we should understand the roots of Bill's problems, but everything that happened there was very painful for Nancy. Nancy, what's the matter? Did you have a bad dream?
No.
Well, what is it?
I don't know. I feel like... I don't don't know what I feel.
Did she ever discuss it further with you?
Mm-mm. But then, nothing was really the same between us. She started seeing a therapist all the time. She quit her job. Just withdrew, spent all her time up in her office doing God knows what.
And so then you met Bridget Tyler.
Hmm?
You met Bridget Tyler.
Yeah. But there wasn't that much left between me and Nancy. We just kept going back and forth. You know how that is.
And then you filed for divorce.
Yeah. Then it got pretty ugly, and I don't know. So I went back to her. She's a sick woman. I couldn't just leave her just like that, and I didn't want to do that to the kids anyway. I told Bridget she had some sort of a blood disease. I didn't want to hurt her either.
So, Richard, what about these vitamins? I mean, it's the best evidence the police have.
She was constantly getting sick, so maybe she was taking vitamins. We had done it together before. But if she was doing that, I don't know how poison got in the capsules. I do know that I didn't put it there.
So, do you think that Nancy might have done this to herself?
I don't know. It was like clockwork. Bridget said one time Nancy always used to get sick on Friday or Saturday nights just when we were getting ready to go out.
And you'd come running.
Yeah.
Richard, girls want to say goodnight.
I'll be right there. So what happens now?
Well, we'll see what the grand jury has to say.
I don't want to lose my family.
I know, Richard. Don't worry. I'll talk to you tomorrow, okay? Something's funny here. I want to know what it is. Check out that clinic in Arizona.
Right.
Oh, and see if you can get your hands on any of Nancy's therapy records. If there's any skeletons in the Dillard's closet, I want to lay it at the jury's feet.
You got it.
The grand jury convened today to determine if Richard Lyon will be indicted for murder in the death of his wife, Nancy Lyon, the local well-known architect. Ms. Lyon died mysteriously from poisoning 4 months ago. The grand jury
Oh, hello, Richard. Tell me this is the last of it.
It is. I never knew Nancy had so much stuff. I cleaned out the office. She even had things stashed in the attic. Have you heard anything from Bridget?
No, she's probably on the stand right now. Look, Richard, I know this is nerve-wracking. Why don't you go home, relax?
Yeah, I think I'm going to do that. Call me if you hear anything.
Okay.
Do you solemnly swear that you will not divulge, either by word or sign, any matter about which you may be interrogated, and will keep secret all proceedings of this grand jury, and that you will make truthful answers to all questions asked of you by this grand jury? So help you God.
I do.
Please be seated.
Miss Tyler, did you know the value of this ring which Mr. Lyon gave you?
I think it was appraised at around $5,000.
And at the time he gave you the ring, you and Richard Lyon were just friends.
Yes, I'd say we were friends always.
And it evolved into an intimate relationship.
Yes.
So he files for divorce.
Well, yes.
Then he wants to go home to his wife and children.
Yes.
Did you ever give Richard Lyon any type of ultimatum?
No, I didn't.
Did you say you were tired or fed up with the situation.
Oh, yes, I did. I said either get divorced or not. 'Cause I don't want to just date you. I want a real relationship.
This is a letter of intent to vacate the apartment signed by Richard Lyon.
Yes, ma'am.
What is your job, Mr. Carter?
We do make-readies, clean up, paint.
Now, what, sir, if you remember, had been left at that apartment?
Well, I found a plastic bag full of empty capsules. Large, clear capsules that come apart, 2 pieces.
Now, do these look familiar to you?
Yes, ma'am, that's like what we found at the apartment, except empty.
We have Mr. Lyon's mistress pressuring him. We have him ordering poisons. We have him with empty gelatin capsules. And when that doesn't work, Richard Lyon orders something far more lethal. Arsenic.
We understand your client has been arrested for the murder of his wife. Can you comment?
Well, I'll tell you this. There's a lot of deep, dark secrets in this case. My investigators and I feel that there are at least 2 other people with better motives for murdering Nancy Lyon. For the police to overlook this, well, it makes you wonder. That's all I'm going to say.
And that was an earlier interview with Richard Lyon's attorney. Another wave of attacks left 3 police officers wounded when squad cars were ambushed along Riverview Road.
Homicide, Norton.
Another assault.
Yes, it's Detective Ortega there, please.
Say who's calling?
Just say it's about the Nancy Lyons case.
Hang on. Ortega.
Ortega.
Detective, this is Dr. Ruth Harper. I'm Nancy Lyons' therapist.
Yes, ma'am?
I want to protect my client and her confidentiality, but...
Yes?
Well, I've been watching the news, and I'm afraid there are some things that are going to come out now.
Yeah, get out of here. Get a line. Billy, right. Magazine. Get out. Oh. Time later.
This is a nightmare. When can you get me out of here?
There's a bond hearing scheduled first thing Monday morning.
Thank God.
Richard, Stoner's done some digging. I think I'm beginning to get a picture here.
What do you mean?
I found some pretty incriminating documents in Nancy's therapy sessions. Richard, listen to me. You knew about this, didn't you? If Bill and Nancy were in an incestuous relationship, then you gotta talk to me about it.
Mr. Dillard, the state of Texas doesn't have reciprocal discovery. Now, that means I don't know what Guthrie's going to throw at me at the trial. Now, I hate coming around here with my hat in my hands, but y'all have put me in a bind.
There's nothing. A couple of kids playing doctor.
How old were you when it occurred?
I don't know. 13, I guess.
Was there intercourse?
No. We were just starved for affection.
Did Richard know?
We all talked about it in Arizona to help Bill out of a tough time. Look, Richard is just bringing this up to fan the flames. This has nothing to do with the trial.
Well, sir, I wouldn't be so sure.
Well, what can we do?
Well, how do you feel about taking a lie detector test?
The courts will reduce the $2 million bond to $50,000 when Mr. Lyon surrenders his passport and is fitted with an electronic monitor.
Mr. Lyon has his passport right here, Your Honor.
You think these things work?
I've seen liars pass them and honest men fail.
Sir, is there a way to beat him?
Can't tell you that.
Did Richard take one?
I can't discuss that.
Do you intend to answer all of these questions truthfully?
Yes.
Do you now live in the state of Texas?
Yes.
Are you William Dillard, Jr.?
Yes.
Detective Hernandez said you ordered this? No, they both said they haven't. It's not the one you ordered.
No, we'll be fine.
Ms. Dillard.
Mr. Ortega, I'd like to tell you how very pleased we are with the way you've handled this investigation.
Thank you very much, Miss Dillard. What's on your mind, ma'am?
I wanted to talk to you about our son, Bill. He's had an especially hard time of it lately. And now with his lie detector test.
Well, I understand. It's just something we have to do to prepare for the trial.
I know, I understand, and so does Bill. I just want to remind you of something that may have gotten lost in all of this. Mr. Ortega, our son has turned his whole life around. He just tore himself apart in Arizona. And he also made all of us take a good, hard look at ourselves. So when Nancy went into a tailspin after Richard left her, it was to Bill she turned. He was the best friend she had in the world. Nancy did not go into therapy because of some deep, dark family secret. She went there because Richard left the children and her for another woman.
I understand, I do.
I know you do. I only wanted you to remember it. You see, Bill would never say any of these things himself. That's the kind of man he is now. That's really all I want to say. Forgive me, Mr. Ortega.
There's nothing to forgive you for, ma'am.
Thank you.
Richard, look at this. This look familiar?
A garden sprayer for killing ants.
Is this where you thought to use the arsenic?
One of our many attempts at invention.
Yeah, that's right. One of yours and Nancy's inventions. This is her handwriting right here.
Yeah.
That puts the arsenic right back into Nancy's hands. Oh, and listen to this. This is what we found in one of her notes. Bill violated me for several years. Dad said nothing when he discovered this. Bill was sent away, I was repaired, and all was forgotten. Richard tried to help me, tried to save me with his sincere heart and unending patience.
Ortega.
I've got Bill Dillard Jr.'s results.
Well, did he get a passing grade?
Well, professionally speaking, the results are inconclusive.
Well, it's par for the course on this one. Thanks much.
Do not be fooled, ladies and gentlemen. Don't be misled by the smoke screens and the side issues of this case. If you look at the facts of this case about the life insurance money Richard Lyon thought he was going to get, about the first poison he ordered, and the arsenic that finally killed Nancy Lyon. If you add it all up, you will find that it leads a clear trail of damning evidence from Nancy Lyon's calculated murder to her discontented husband, Richard. Everything else is irrelevant.
First of all, ladies and gentlemen, we all know that more often than not, life is not so simple as a clear, well-marked trail. Now, as the prosecution points out, this all began with a few classic elements of murder. a poisoned wife, an estranged husband who appeared to have motive. Now, the prosecution will contend that presumed motive is enough to convict my client. Motive is not enough. This is not a clear trail. This trail is deeply rutted and cluttered with all kinds of tracks.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
Please be seated.
You spent a lot of time in the Lyons household, didn't you, Miss Chandler?
Yes, I'm taking care of Allison and Anna.
You cared for them a lot, didn't you? I mean, you even have a picture of them in your own home?
Yes, in my guest room.
Now, did Richard seem to be a good father? Did he take good care of them?
Absolutely.
Miss Chandler, after Richard left, you had occasion to be concerned about Nancy?
Well, I found her crying all the time. You can't help but be concerned. You go in the morning and someone's crying, and you leave at night.
And wasn't there a time when you discussed with your husband whether Nancy might be suicidal?
Yes. And I asked Nancy, and she said she was not thinking of suicide.
But you were concerned enough to talk to your husband about it, correct?
I was concerned about her crying. I just knew she was in tears all the time.
Nothing further at this time.
Miss Chandler, Nancy Lyon asked you to witness her signature on a document, did she not?
Yes.
And what was she signing?
Well, she changed her life insurance beneficiary from Richard to the kids.
Did Richard Lyon know?
Well, after Nancy died, I mentioned it, and he said if Nancy was going to do that, she would have told me.
Thank you.
And Bill Jr. was sent away to school in Dublin, New Hampshire. Why was he sent there?
Bill had a few problems. One of them was dyslexia, you know, a reading problem.
And that's why he was sent away?
Yes.
What other problems did he have, Mr. Dillard?
Objection. What is the relevance of these questions?
I'll establish relevance, Your Honor.
Objection overruled.
Mr. Dillard, when did you first discover the incestuous relationship between your son and daughter?
I wouldn't exactly call it that.
What would you call it?
They were playing doctor.
Doctor. And how old were they at the time?
Well, I don't recall. I suppose 12, 13. One was 13, 15, something.
Mr. Dillard, isn't it a fact the way you discovered this relationship is when Nancy experienced some bleeding and came to her mother?
That was not my understanding at all.
I take the defense exhibit number 3 from Nancy's personal notes, where she says, Dad said nothing when he discovered this. Bill was sent away, I was repaired, and all was forgotten. Is this what Nancy says in her note?
That's what it says here.
Is this Nancy's handwriting?
I think so.
Thank you, Mr. Dillard. Let's jump forward for a minute and explore something else. Bill developed a cocaine problem, didn't he?
Alcohol and drugs. It was not cocaine specifically. Bill was an alcoholic, is what he is.
Mr. Dillard, isn't it a fact that Bill went into the hospital with an alcohol and cocaine abuse problem?
He was admitted to a clinic. They treated him very well. Look, I'm proud of my son. He's been through a tough time.
And during the time that he was there, the whole family went to the clinic.
Yes, there were family meetings.
And during some of these sessions, isn't it true that Nancy brought up the incestuous relationship?
I don't remember who brought it up. It was a long time ago. I mean, no big deal.
No big deal. No big deal. Do you recall just putting your hands behind your head, laying back in a chair and saying, no big deal?
No, I don't recall that.
No big deal. That pretty much summarizes your whole view of the thing, doesn't it, Mr. Dillard?
Asked and answered.
Sustained.
Are you aware of the fact that Nancy, after those meetings, sought counseling for incest?
I was not aware of that.
Well, then let me show you exhibit number 4. Is this Nancy's handwriting?
I think so.
Would you please read it to the members of the court? Please, what Nancy wrote.
If you need time to read it over, take your time. Fear of Bill and what his desires are. Sex, sick sex, incestuous issues with me, my girls, my fear of reprisal.
Thank you, Mr. Dillard. No further questions.
Mr. Dillard, we have a letter submitted as evidence here. Do you recognize the signature on this exhibit?
Yes, it's Nancy's.
And this is a letter of authorization from Nancy for you or Mrs. Dillard or Bill or Mary Helen to take the children for emergency treatment?
Yes,
Any of the four of you?
yes, any of the four of us.
Thank you.
Mr. Ortega, at this time, did the Dillards discuss with you the fact that Bill Jr. had a severe alcohol and cocaine problem?
No, sir.
Did they discuss with you the fact that Bill Jr. had an incestuous relationship with Nancy?
No, sir.
Did you ever see any of Nancy's writings where she discusses her relationship with Bill Jr. and other members of the family?
No, sir. I never saw anything like that.
Were you aware of the fact that Bill Jr. was desperate for money?
No, sir.
Did you ever subpoena any of his bank records? See if there was any judgments against him?
No, sir.
You did no investigation into Bill Dillard Jr.'s background?
No, sir.
Did you ever treat anyone except my client as a serious suspect in your investigation of this case?
No, sir.
Mr. Ortega, the wine bottle that you recovered from the trunk of the nanny's car, did you check it for fingerprints?
I never checked it for fingerprints.
Did you testify to the grand jury that the preliminary results indicated that Nancy Lyon had been receiving arsenic over a month or two period, just before her death?
That is correct, sir.
And during this period, none of the purchases made by Richard Lyon contained any arsenic whatsoever?
That is correct, sir.
Detective, have you ever investigated any arsenic cases prior to this one?
No, sir.
I see, Detective. We have no further questions for this witness, Your Honor.
What about Alexander? What about Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
Please be seated.
Mr. Mathers, you are a handwriting expert, are you not?
Yes, I am a document examiner.
And how many examinations do you do a year?
Approximately 6,000.
And for whom do you do these examinations?
I do them for the police department and the district attorney's office.
At my request, you examine certain exhibits for the defense?
Yes.
Now, Mr. Mathers, in your opinion, who wrote exhibits 3 and 4 on incest?
It is my conclusion that Nancy Lyon wrote all these documents.
Also, I've asked you to look at this document here. Do you identify this as Nancy Lyon's signature?
Yes.
Your Honor, I'd like to enter this into evidence, an invoice from AMM Chemical.
May we see that document, Your Honor?
I'd be happy to share this with the state.
We may have just lost our case.
Miss Sims, do you have questions of this witness?
Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Mathers, the samples you compared of Mrs. Lyon's handwriting to the so-called incest notes, did you get these from family and friends, or did Mr. Guthrie provide them all through his client?
Mr. Guthrie provided them.
Did you compare these writings to any other writings? Say, for example, did you examine any of Richard Lyons' known handwriting?
No.
No further questions, Your Honor.
And in your many years as a psychiatrist, have you specialized in cases of incest?
Yes.
How many cases would you say you've treated?
Oh, several hundred.
And in your opinion, Doctor, after reading Nancy Lyons' notes, the ones entered into evidence, would you describe her as a victim of incest?
Absolutely. What we call an adult incest survivor.
I see. Now, do you recall in the notes this reference to control? When I'm not in control, I get angry. Now, why does she keep referring to control?
Well, she has to be in control. She didn't have power and control as a child during the incestuous relationship. So as an adult, if she felt out of control, then it was frustrating. It was irritating.
Now, would you say that Nancy would call Richard if they were separated and say she was sick?
Certainly, I think this could have been typical of the situation. It was her way of control was getting him home.
So, Doctor, in your opinion, do you think that Nancy Lyon would ingest arsenic herself?
It's my opinion that Richard had given her something she'd never had before. She did feel loved, and she'd go to any length not to lose it. So I think she could have deliberately ingested the arsenic in small amounts in an attempt to regain her husband's attention.
Thank you. No further questions. Your Honor, may we pause for a moment to swear in 5 new witnesses?
If the state has no objection.
No objection. Find out who the hell these guys are. What have you got for me?
Well, I found out these guys work at AMM Chemicals. Guthrie's men showed up and slapped them all with subpoenas.
What do you think?
They found something, that's for sure. We might have an ace, though.
What?
One subpoena went unserved. The boss, a Mr. Leonard Potter.
Okay, you call out the Texas Rangers if you have to. Find the guy. And about that receipt for arsenic, I think we need our own handwriting expert.
You got it, boss.
Mr. Potter? Mr. Leonard Potter? My name is Jerry Sims. I'm with the DA's office. Can we chat?
Are you the one that practically shut my plan down looking for a typewriter?
No. A typewriter?
Yeah, well, you won't find it, though. I do everything by hand.
Have you heard of Nancy Lyons?
It's in all the papers.
Well, why would Richard Lyons' attorney want to talk to your men?
Look, last fall, a woman called me about a poison. She wanted a formula that would kill fire ants. I recommended arsenic.
The defense calls Leonard Potter to the stand. Mr. Potter, how are you employed?
I'm president of AMM Chemicals.
Let me direct your attention, sir, back to last year. And I'll ask if you recall receiving a phone call from a female about fire ant poison?
Yes, she said she had a bad infestation of ants and needed a poison.
And this woman said that she and her husband were working on an idea where they would directly inject the poison into the ground. Is that correct?
That's correct.
What did you suggest?
Arsenic trioxide. But I told her you have to watch what you're using because you could be creating a hazard for yourself.
And in this conversation with the woman, did she identify herself as Nancy Lyon?
She may have mentioned her name. I've forgotten that, but I do remember she said she lived over by the SMU area.
Would you please read the signature on the bottom here?
Nancy Lyon.
And this is your form from the AMM Chemical Company?
That's right.
It's typed.
And she came by later.
Didn't have typewriter.
Yeah, I offered to mail it to her, but she said...
Why would Guthrie bring him in?
I don't know.
And when she picked up the formulation?
He doesn't know.
I keep my desk out of the line of sight. Everybody wants to talk to the boss. I was busy when she came in, so I gave the formulation to an employee. He took it up front to her.
Thank you, Mr. Potter. We pass the witness.
Mr. Potter, on this exhibit that you were referring to, This is a copy of one of your business forms. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Now, this order is typed. When you sell something, will the form look like this?
Oh, no, ma'am. I do everything by hand, the old-fashioned way. They taught me to print real pretty in engineering school. I don't type.
So your orders are handwritten?
Yes.
What is this? Is this something you sold anybody?
No, this is just a formulation, a recipe.
Let me get this straight. The lady you spoke with, you didn't sell anything to. You gave out a recipe.
I just gave her the formulation. I don't sell arsenic trioxide. You've got to have a special license to do that.
Let me ask you again. Since your invoices are handwritten, this isn't one of your invoices, is it, Mr. Potter?
This looks like a forged document here. I don't know anything about it.
This is a copy of one of your business forms. But in your opinion, this particular order itself is a forgery.
Yes.
Thank you, sir.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please be seated.
Richard, let me ask you straight out. Did you kill your wife?
No, I did not.
How long were you married?
8.5 years.
Any children?
2 little girls, Anna and Allison.
We've introduced Nancy's medical records. Now, from the time you first met Nancy, were there incidents where she experienced nausea, other health-related problems?
Yes.
And when you and Nancy were separated, would Nancy call saying that she was sick?
10 or 12 times. I would go over to help her.
Would you tell the court what this is?
Sure. That's an idea that Nancy and I had for an ant sprayer. We had a big infestation of fire ants, and we couldn't get rid of them. The children were getting bitten a lot, and they were terrified of bugs, so Nancy and I tried to figure a way to distribute the poison under the ground.
And would you tell me whose handwriting this is along the side here?
Nancy's.
So, what kind of poison were you going to use in the sprayer?
Nancy suggested that we use arsenic.
So you ordered some arsenic?
Yes.
Through the nursery where you work?
Yes.
Now, why order it through the office?
Well, I thought if it worked for us, then I could possibly introduce it at the nursery for similar problems.
Richard, when did you learn that the arsenic that you ordered had been delivered?
Right here, in this courtroom.
So, no arsenic was ever possessed by you?
Never.
So this invoice from AMM Chemical you found in Nancy's papers.
Yes?
Can you explain anything further about it?
No.
So you had no idea that Nancy placed an order for arsenic from Mr. Potter?
No, I did not.
So you didn't know anything about this invoice until our investigations?
That's correct.
Did Mr. Ortega ask if you would consent to have your home searched?
Yes, and I consented.
Thank you, Richard.
Mr. Lyon, when Detective Ortega told you that your wife had been poisoned, what did you think?
He said, would I be surprised if I learned that she'd been poisoned? And I said yes.
You hadn't gone to the doctors and asked for an autopsy to be done on your wife's body to determine how she died?
I was distraught. I don't remember speaking to anyone specifically. I remember Mr. Dillard handing me a request for an autopsy, which I signed.
And who did you call to determine these findings?
Funeral home. They said it wasn't completed, and I never contacted anyone else after that.
So when Detective Ortega told you that your wife had been poisoned, did you tell him of anyone that you knew that might want to do your wife harm?
Not at the moment, no.
Did you say, I have these drawings, I can show you where Nancy and I worked on this invention together? Did you volunteer that?
You've obviously never had anybody close to you die before.
Just answer the question.
No, I did not tell him that.
Did you tell us that Nancy had arsenic, that she had ordered the stuff, that you had the documents to prove it?
I was under arrest. There was no conversation with your office.
Could it be that these documents and papers didn't exist at the time, that you needed time to forge them?
That's not true.
No
Nancy
further
wrote those
questions.
documents.
You're a toxicologist as well, aren't you, Doctor?
Yes, I am.
What do you think about this theory floating around that Nancy Lyon poisoned herself with arsenic to gain the attention of her husband?
It's a little preposterous.
What do you mean?
Anyone who's done any kind of reading, even on an amateur basis, learns that it's a terrible way to die. It's agonizing, painful, and prolonged.
Thank you, Doctor. No further questions.
Dr. Frawley, are you saying that it's impossible that anyone might take arsenic to make themselves sick?
It's a possibility, among hundreds of other possibilities.
Thank you.
Mr. Webster, you are an expert at handwriting analysis, are you not?
Yes, I am.
Upon request, you studied samples that have been put forth as evidence in this court.
Yes, I did.
Could you explain the handwriting samples you used in your analysis?
I compared all of these purported Nancy Lyon notes not only to Mrs. Lyon's other writings, but to Mr. Lyon's writing as well.
Did you find them to be similar?
They have a number of handwriting characteristics that are very similar.
Did you see an invoice from AMM Chemical with 2 words, Nancy Lyon, on it?
Yes, and I was unable to reach a conclusion concerning this item.
You can't say that it's Richard Lyon's or that it's not.
That's correct.
Let me draw your attention, sir, to 2 exhibits. The first one that says, I feel inadequate when I have no power, and then goes on to say, fear of Bill and his desires. Who wrote that document?
Some of this was written by Nancy Lyon, some was written by Richard Lyon.
Would you please read the writings you found conclusively to be Richard Lyon's?
Yes. The phrase, fear of reprisal, and then at the extreme bottom, the passage on fear of Bill and incest issues.
And the second document, sir, starting with, Bill violated me for several years. The issue of incest never came up for Bill at ST. Bill was sent away. Richard tried to save me with his sincere heart. Did you examine those?
I did. My conclusion is that the writer of this entire document was Richard Lyon.
Mr. Webster, will you tell us again, what is your specific experience as an expert in your field?
18 years with the FBI.
Thank you.
Some people think that Daddy made Mommy sick. I didn't. You know that. But some people say I did. And if enough people believe that, then they'll send Daddy away.
Forever?
Well, for a long time.
No, Daddy.
But I want my girls to know that I would never hurt Mommy. I loved her. I want you to remember that.
This court will now come to order. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, have you reached a verdict?
We have, Your Honor.
Will the defendant please rise? Please state your verdict.
We find the defendant, Richard Lyon, guilty of murder in the first degree.